The entire ballroom fell into complete silence as the city's most feared billionaire slowly dropped to one knee before a tiny little girl. His cold face, the same face that had terrified thousands of employees for years, suddenly crumbled. Tears streamed down his cheeks while everyone stared in disbelief, wondering what on earth a 5-year-old child could have whispered into his ear. Before anyone could react, he raised his hand to stop his security guards, cancelled the billion-dollar signing ceremony, gently lifted the little girl into his arms, and walked away without saying a single word. Hello guys, if you are new to this channel, welcome to my channel where interesting stories of billionaire love and emotional stories are told. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share it with your friends, and tell us where you are watching from in the comments section below, and please make sure you watch this video to the end. Nobody in that luxurious ballroom could explain what had just happened. The reporters forgot to take pictures. The business partners stopped talking. Even the orchestra slowly lowered their instruments. Everyone kept asking the same question. What did that little girl say? Only one person looked more frightened than confused. Her name was Grace. She worked as a cleaner inside Titan Holdings, the biggest company in the city. The little girl in the billionaire's arms was her only daughter, Lily. Grace's face turned pale. "Oh no," she whispered as she hurried after them. "Please don't let her get me fired." She knew exactly how dangerous Alexander Stone could be. Every employee in Titan Holdings had heard stories about him. Some people said he once dismissed an executive during a board meeting because the man arrived 5 minutes late. Others claimed he cancelled $1 million project after discovering one dishonest supplier. Whether the stories were true or not, one thing remained certain. Nobody wanted to become the target of Alexander Stone's anger. He never smiled. He never attended birthday celebrations. He never accepted invitations for lunch. His office occupied the highest floor of the building, yet many employees joked that it felt colder than winter itself. Behind his back, they called him the man without a heart. Grace never joined those conversations. She believed every human being carried a story nobody else could see. Still, she stayed out of his way. Her job mattered too much. After losing her husband to a sudden illness 3 years earlier, every paycheck meant survival. She rented a tiny apartment on the edge of the city where she and Lily shared one bedroom and one old ceiling fan that worked only when it felt generous enough to cooperate. Whenever electricity disappeared, Lily would laugh instead of complain. "It needs a little nap too, Mommy." Grace would smile despite her worries. That little girl's cheerful spirit somehow made difficult days feel lighter. Every afternoon after school, Lily waited quietly at Titan Holdings until Grace finished cleaning. The security officers knew her well. She greeted everyone with a bright smile. Sometimes she even reminded busy workers not to skip lunch. One elderly receptionist often laughed and said, "This little girl behaves like she owns the company." Lily would giggle. "No," she replied. "If I owned it, everyone would get ice cream on Fridays." The adults laughed harder than they had all week. But there was one person who never laughed. Alexander Stone. Every evening his black luxury car arrived exactly at 6 o'clock. Every evening he stepped out wearing the same calm expression. Every evening people moved aside without being asked. Yet while everyone else saw a ruthless billionaire, Lily noticed something completely different. She noticed the loneliness hiding behind his eyes. And without realizing it, that simple observation was already beginning to change all of their lives. From that day on, Lily could not stop thinking about Alexander Stone. While everyone else whispered that he was cold, heartless, and impossible to please, she kept remembering the sadness in his eyes. To her, he did not look like a scary billionaire. He looked like someone who had forgotten how to smile. Every afternoon after school, Grace continued bringing Lily to Titan Holdings while she worked. Grace would hand her a coloring book, kiss her forehead, and remind her, "Stay in the waiting area, sweetheart. Don't wander around." "I won't, "Mommy," Lily always answered with an innocent smile. Most days she obeyed. But children have curious hearts. One evening she quietly walked down the hallway leading to the executive offices. The floor was so polished that she could almost see her reflection. It felt different from the rest of the building. It was silent. Even the air seemed serious. Just as she reached Alexander's office, she noticed the door was slightly open. She wasn't trying to spy. She only wanted to see if the lonely man was inside. Peeking through the small opening, she saw something no employee had ever witnessed. Alexander was sitting alone behind his enormous desk. In his hands was an old family photograph. He gently brushed his thumb across the picture before closing his eyes. A single tear rolled down his face. Lily's tiny heart squeezed. "So he does cry," she whispered softly. Before she could be noticed, she quietly slipped away. That night she couldn't stop thinking about him. The next afternoon she drew a picture with bright crayons. It showed a smiling sun, a little house, and 3 stick figures holding hands. At the bottom she carefully wrote, in her best handwriting, "Smiling makes your heart feel better." She folded the drawing and left it outside Alexander's office door before running back to the waiting area. The following day, the drawing was gone. She smiled to herself. He found it. Encouraged, Lily made another drawing. This time she drew balloons floating into a blue sky. The note underneath read, "You don't have to be sad forever." Again, the picture disappeared. Week after week she kept leaving little drawings. Flowers. Rainbows. Butterflies. Happy faces. Sometimes she even drew funny cartoons of a grumpy businessman accidentally stepping on a banana peel. If he laughs, she told herself, that's progress. Alexander never mentioned the drawings. He never asked security to stop whoever was leaving them. Instead, after everyone had gone home, he quietly opened the bottom drawer of his desk. Inside lay every single drawing Lily had ever made. He kept them carefully stacked together like precious treasures. For the first time in years, something inside his office brought warmth instead of painful memories. His longtime assistant, Mr. Harris, noticed the change. "Sir," he asked carefully one morning, "have you been smiling?" Alexander quickly straightened his face. "You need your eyes checked." Mr. Harris chuckled. "I'll take that as a yes." Even Alexander almost smiled again. Meanwhile, Grace accidentally discovered Lily drawing another colorful picture during lunch break. "Who is this for?" she asked. Lily hesitated. "The lonely man." Grace's eyes widened. "You mean Mr. Stone?" Lily nodded innocently. Grace nearly dropped the cleaning supplies she was holding. "Lily. You cannot leave things outside the CEO's office. If anyone thinks we're bothering him, I could lose my job." "But Mommy." "No, sweetheart. He looks lonely." "I know you mean well," Grace replied gently, kneeling beside her. "But some grown-ups carry pain we don't understand. Promise me you won't go near his office again." Lily lowered her head. "I promise." She truly wanted to keep that promise. But destiny was quietly preparing a moment that neither she nor Grace could possibly imagine, a moment that would unfold during Titan Holdings' grand annual gala and change every one of their lives forever. The week of Titan Holdings' annual gala finally arrived, and the entire company buzzed with excitement. Employees rushed from one department to another, decorators transformed the grand ballroom into a breathtaking sea of crystal lights and fresh flowers, and reporters gathered outside, hoping to catch a glimpse of the city's richest business leaders. Grace had been assigned to clean the ballroom before the guests arrived. Since school had closed early that afternoon, she had no choice but to bring Lily with her. "Lily," Grace said as they entered the magnificent hall, "please stay close to me today. There will be many important people here." "I will, Mommy," Lily answered with a cheerful smile. For the next few hours, Grace polished tables and arranged chairs while Lily quietly sat in a corner, coloring another picture. She watched as expensive cars lined up outside and elegantly dressed guests filled the ballroom with laughter and conversation. Soon, the room grew silent. Alexander Stone had arrived. Just like always, conversation stopped the moment he stepped inside. He walked confidently through the crowd in a perfectly tailored black suit. Executives hurried over to greet him, each hoping to earn his attention, but his face remained expressionless. He acknowledged them with polite nods before standing alone near the stage, looking as distant as ever. Lily looked up from her drawing. "There he is," she whispered. She remembered her promise to her mother. She really did. But then she noticed something that broke her little heart. Although hundreds of people surrounded Alexander, he looked completely alone. She slowly stood. Without making a sound, she walked across the ballroom. Several guests smiled at the adorable little girl, assuming she was simply looking for her mother. Nobody realized she was heading straight toward the billionaire. A security guard noticed first. "Sir," he shouted into his radio. "A child is approaching Mr. Stone." Within seconds, 2 guards stepped in front of Lily. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," one of them said kindly. "You can't go any farther." Before Lily could answer, Alexander turned around. His eyes met hers. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then he quietly lifted one hand. "Let her come." The guards immediately stepped aside. A wave of whispers spread through the ballroom. Did he just invite her over? Who is that little girl? Isn't she one of the cleaner's children? Grace looked up just in time to see Lily walking toward Alexander. Her heart nearly stopped. "Lily," she cried, dropping the cleaning cloth in her hand. She rushed forward, but she was too far away. Lily stopped in front of the billionaire. Alexander looked down at her. "What is it?" he asked softly, surprising even himself with the gentleness in his voice. Lily smiled. "I have to tell you a secret." He bent down until his ear was close to her lips. The ballroom became so quiet that even the sound of a glass being placed on a table echoed through the room. Lily cupped her tiny hand around his ear and whispered. "My mommy is lonely, you're lonely too. Will you be my daddy and make her smile again?" Time stood still. Alexander did not move. His breathing grew heavy. Those innocent words carried him back to the happiest days of his life. Days when his own little daughter had wrapped her tiny arms around his neck and called him the best daddy in the world. The memory struck him like a wave. He saw his late wife laughing. He heard his daughter's giggles. For years, he had buried those memories beneath endless meetings, business deals, and sleepless nights. Now, one innocent child had uncovered them with 6 simple words. His eyes filled with tears. The tears refused to stop. Gasps spread across the ballroom as the ruthless billionaire, the man everyone believed had no heart, began crying openly in front of hundreds of guests. Without saying a word, he gently pulled Lily into his arms and held her close. Then he looked toward the stage. "The contract signing is cancelled," he announced firmly. "End tonight's event." The room erupted into stunned whispers. No one understood why. But Alexander already knew that, for the first time in years, something far more valuable than money had walked into his life. The ballroom remained silent long after Alexander's announcement. Business partners exchanged confused glances, reporters lowered their cameras, and executives whispered among themselves, trying to make sense of what they had just witnessed. A billion-dollar contract had been cancelled without hesitation, yet Alexander Stone looked more certain than he ever had during any business negotiation. Grace finally reached them, her face pale with fear. "Mr. Stone. I'm so sorry," she said, struggling to catch her breath. "Please forgive her. She's only a child." She didn't mean any disrespect. Alexander slowly turned toward her. Instead of the cold stare everyone expected, there was kindness in his eyes. "You don't need to apologize," he said gently. "Your daughter has done something no one else has been able to do." Grace looked at Lily, then back at Alexander. She didn't understand. Neither did anyone else. Alexander knelt beside Lily once more. "Would you like to show me where you live?" Lily's eyes sparkled. "Really?" He nodded. "As long as your mother says it's okay." Grace hesitated for a moment before quietly agreeing. They drove through the city, leaving behind luxury hotels and towering office buildings until they reached a small apartment tucked away in a modest neighborhood. Alexander stepped inside. The home was tiny but spotless. The furniture was old but carefully maintained. Family photos decorated the walls, and although money was scarce, love filled every corner. As they talked that evening, Alexander learned that Grace had once reported a dishonest supplier who had been stealing company equipment. She had refused a bribe and never asked for recognition. Her honesty had saved Titan Holdings a fortune, yet she had quietly returned to her cleaning duties without expecting a reward. For the first time in years, Alexander felt that he had met people who valued character more than wealth. The following Monday, Grace was called to the executive office. Terrified, she expected to lose her job. Instead, Alexander promoted her to supervise the company's facilities and employee welfare program. "You've spent years taking care of this company," he told her. "Now it's time the company takes care of you." Tears filled Grace's eyes. Months passed. Alexander didn't rush anything. He visited occasionally, helped Lily with her homework, attended her school events, and slowly allowed laughter back into his life. Grace, in turn, never tried to replace the family he had lost. She simply listened whenever he was ready to talk, and little by little, the walls around his heart began to fall. Lily loved seeing them smile. Sometimes she would fold her arms dramatically and say, "You two are talking like old people again. Can we have ice cream instead?" Alexander would laugh. "I think that's an excellent business proposal. Love does not always arrive through grand gestures or expensive gifts. Sometimes it comes through simple words spoken with a sincere heart." Pain can make people build walls, but kindness, patience, and compassion can slowly tear those walls down. Never underestimate the impact of a small act of love, because what seems ordinary to one person may become the very miracle another has been waiting for. A caring heart has the power to heal old wounds, restore hope, and remind us that no one is truly too broken to love or be loved again. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you really want to know what happens next, let me know in the comments section below.